It's Sunday, which means it's recap time here on the Retirement Quick Tips podcast. The theme this week was year-end tax planning tips with Sean Mullaney, the FI tax guy. You can check him out over on fitaxguy.com. Now, I really enjoyed talking with Sean. We actually talked several times prior to sitting down for this interview, but I had never met him before. I went to the FinCon conference that we were at where we recorded the interview. So I appreciated his perspective, his ideas, his thoughts and experience all around year-end tax planning considerations. Now, before I close the week, I would just want to share with you the last bit of conversation that I had with Sean Mullaney, where he talks about kind of the uniqueness of what he does for his clients and how he works with his clients. And I just want to be clear, though, that this is intended for general education purposes. It is not tax, legal, or investment advice. I or the Retirement Quick Tips podcast do not endorse Sean Mullaney, Mullaney Financial and Tax, Inc., and their services. So with that disclaimer out of the way, here is the rest of my conversation with Sean Mullaney. Before we wrap up, I want to circle back on something we talked about the first time we met, which was just a couple of days ago, but we were sitting around and we both discovered we're both advisors, but you have a very interesting business model and how you work with clients. So I want to let you talk about that because I think it's a lot of people don't know that how you work with clients and how you help people, that's even available. So do your little plug for your business model because I think it's really unique and really interesting and a good fit for potentially a lot of people out there.
So thanks for the opportunity to talk about that. My firm business model is referred to as advice-only financial planning. So my firm is a so-called registered investment advisor. It's registered in the state of California. It's notice filed in the state of Texas. So it is licensed to provide investment advice. And through that firm, I provide investment advice and financial planning in an advice-only model. So what is that? There's no custody of assets. There's no assets under management. So what I sell to clients through my firm is my advice. And what I do is project-based financial planning. This comes from my experiences working with clients. I find, and this is just my own way of operating, and I have a one-man firm. I'm not looking to scale up. So the model I've found to be most satisfying is 90-day financial planning, where through my firm, I offer, a detailed financial plan, recommendations for going forward, and knowledge and education so that the client can drive the car in their own financial life after I'm out of the picture. What's interesting about it is most of my clients simply graduate, right? They have a plan in place. They don't keep paying financial planning fees, but they also don't keep getting my advice. And you say, well, is that appropriate for all clients? I would say no, but I think there are plenty of clients out there who need a plan, they need some advice, they need some education, but they're then able to take the car, drive the car after that. I do have some clients that come back for a revised financial plan or fourth quarter tax planning. But yeah, it's an interesting model. It's sort of burgeoning in the industry. I would say most advisors are not advice-only financial planners, but the world changes, right? And I think there are just different offerings out there. And for some people, getting that initial plan in place is where 90% of the value comes in. And so I'm happy to sort of focus on that with my limited time and, sort of focus on get a plan in place, get some education in place, and then hopefully the client can take it from there. It's not the right answer for everybody, right? But I think for some, it's a very good approach.
Yeah, that's great. I love hearing about that. It's very unique. And I think it's a sought after business model that a lot of people just don't realize exists. They think if they work with an advisor that their only option is to have that advisor manage assets for them. That's primarily how I work with clients. I would say most of the advisors out there, that's their business model as well. So it's good that people like you exist and can work with clients at like that crucial point in time. They really need a plan and advice, but they maybe long-term, they don't want to have that long-term partnership or relationship or be totally hands-off. They still want to manage their investments or whatever that is. So
yeah, Ashley, I like to say that, well, first of all, I'm not going to be everybody's financial planner, and that's okay. I like to say there are plenty of folks out there that benefit from a continuing relationship with a financial planner. And that is a valid need and a valid concern. And for those folks, yeah, my firm is not a good candidate to work with those folks, and that's okay. But there are going to be people who maybe the continuing relationship with the financial planner is not what they need. And so, yeah, I think a firm like mine then can serve them. And look, like I said, I like for a lot of my clients to simply graduate from the need for my firm's services. But I understand that some of them do need to come back. So I do work on secondary, tertiary engagements in the future with some of my firm's former clients as well. That can be a thing. But I do find there's a lot of value in getting the plan in place. And so that's where I've focused my energies.
Yeah, that's great. Well, Sean, I loved the conversation. It was fun talking to you. Taxes aren't always fun, but I feel like we had a good time.
I think we did, Ashley. Yeah. Thanks so much for having me on. I really enjoyed chatting with you. And yeah, year-end tax planning is full of good stuff, and hope all the listeners are attentive to it and take advantage of some opportunities.
The most important takeaway from this week is that it's always important. Don't skip this. The last few weeks of the year, I know it's crazy. I know the holidays are coming up. I know you're busy. I'm busy too, but it is important to look at your income situation and your tax situation, your investments, your retirement contributions, look at your gains and losses in taxable accounts. You want to sit down and really thoughtfully consider this. Look at, is there anything else that you could or should be doing to help with keeping your taxes lower in the current year? Now, in the case of a Roth conversion, maybe you're looking ahead to future years to plan for that, lower your taxes down the road. And the time to do this is now. You should know generally have a pretty good idea of what your income is going to end up being for the year. And so it's a lot easier to do that, especially if your income varies. It's a lot easier to do this at the tail end of the year where you've been making contributions to your retirement accounts. You have a sense for what your gains or losses are. You know what your income is likely going to be. And we want to get this done before the distraction of the holidays pushes these planning ideas and to-dos to the wayside. Better yet, here's my main takeaway actually from this week. If you have a tax advisor, now is the time to connect with them. You want to be proactive. You want to ask them specifically, ask them to sit down with you. The 30 minutes or an hour that you would spend on the phone or meeting with your tax advisor is going to be well worth the amount of money that they bill you for their time. Because the tax strategies that apply, there are sure one-offs, but you will get a much better understanding of the things that you need to pay attention to each and every year. And so you want to ask them, be proactive, ask them about what tax saving strategies that you should consider. You don't want to go in blind. You want to have an idea, like maybe there are certain ones that you've thought about that appeal to you that you've considered based on either what we've talked about this week or some of your own research online. You don't need to spend hours doing this, but you should have a general understanding of, do you have gains and losses that should be considered? Have you maxed out your retirement accounts if you're intending to do that, including your catch-up? Do you have an inherited IRA? Is your income a lot higher or lower this year than it usually is? Have you done or would you consider Roth conversions? These are all things we talked about at this week, and they're all things that you should be at least asking yourself. So if you have a tax advisor, bring these questions to them. Get their opinion on which ones make the most sense in your situation. All right, tomorrow I am coming back with a brand new theme. I'm very excited for it. My daughter is very excited for it. My daughter Keegan has been very eager to get on the podcast. The other day, a little light bulb went off in my head, and I thought, oh, I know something you can talk about on the podcast. She's very outgoing. She's a very chatty girl. She has a lot to say about a great many things, even money. Children can be so wise, and they see things from an entirely different perspective than we can as adults. They're free from a lot of the money challenges that plague us because of our own experiences, our upbringing, maybe hard knocks and successes. They just haven't had the time to kind of form those biases and baggage that comes from experiences, a lifetime of experiences with money. So next week, you'll hear her unfiltered perspective on money and life. And we'll talk about 10 money tips from a 10-year-old. Thank you so much for listening this week. If you're enjoying the podcast, please share the show. Be sure to subscribe, follow if you haven't already. And if you're interested in learning more about working with me, you can check out my website, truenorthra.com. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you have a blessed Sunday. My name is Ashley Michike, and this is the Retirement Quick Tips Podcast.